So we enter the map at the start of round 2, and what we should consider doing is double clicking 6 Panzer to go to that location and see whereabouts we can move him forward to. Move, and we'll move him towards this way, towards the 1st SS. So just out of curiosity, we'll go down to the 66th Corps and see what that has done to his headquarter status. Well, as you can see, his headquarter power now is 35. So some improvement there in the headquarters power just by adjusting the senior headquarters. So I think that's well worth doing, and you can either do it as a stage, the first thing you do when you enter a turn, or you can just do it as you navigate around the map. You can see here with the 66th Corps quite easily that the 62nd Volksgrenadiers are within that 5x range. The 18th are just outside, but we could move him in to get some advantages there as well. So I do recommend you consider whereabouts you place your headquarters, because obviously these guys have an important role in supply. So let's now go back to the top of the map. Now this road, this major road I've mentioned, is our axis of advance, and obviously we will need to clear these roads for supply reasons. But at this stage we're just going to push on with our breakthrough and see how we go. While we view the map, it's probably worthwhile having a quick review of unit counters. So if we pick for instance this 1st SS unit here, the Aufklärung Abteilung unit, in the top right hand side it's green, and that stands for our supplies received. The vertical bar is the readiness and integrity. The green on the bottom is the supply reserves, and over on the far left is our fuel reserves. So there, as far as supply goes, and the quality of your unit as it currently stands, the 4 items, you should just be able to glance over the map and see that at the moment at least all our units are in pretty good nick. Being only turn 2, you wouldn't expect much else. Very surprised here to see the AI let us just walk into the supply depot, but it did have a little surprise for us a bit later on, as you'll see. I set the supply depot to deplete. I wasn't sure about this. Maybe further down the track in this scenario it might be worthwhile having this as our supply depot and we supply it. I'm just not sure because I haven't played this scenario previously. Now, Kampfgruppe Piper in the red, their main goal is to push as fast as they can to the west and to cut the supply lines as far to the west as we can. Now, I haven't played this before, as I mentioned, so as you'll see later, I push Kampfgruppe Piper way to the west towards Butken back. So I don't know whether they'll get a bloody nose out there, but that's my plan with Kampfgruppe Piper at the moment. Yes, that particular move I should have stopped 1 hex prior rather than going right in, because those Volksies now are at risk of being out of supply. And I didn't notice the American unit just to the north there. So this move wasn't quite what I should have done. Yeah, the 99th Infantry Division. So this is going to be the main role of the Volksgrenadiers, is to first off hold American units in position, and then secondly reduce them and eventually destroy them. So the game gives quite good advantage to concentric attacks. So that is going to be their role moving forward, is clearing our main supply line, and I imagine to do that they're going to have to do these concentric type attacks, just reduce the Americans step by step if we have to. So this attack screen's quite good. You can just click the attacking units as I did there, or using that map feature is very good. I use it quite a bit moving forward, so you can see what units are in the area. As you can see, the readiness there at 27, so we've really taken a lot of the puff out of those two units. But still, they're going to delay us for a couple of turns, which is basically their role at this stage. So these are some of the more expansive moves I made with Kampfgruppe Piper. As you can see, Buchenbach is just there in the north. So Piper's going to be my first group, which I'm definitely going to have supply issues with. So I need to balance their supply, and plus their ability to provide mutual support in their role of cutting supply lines as far to the west as we can. So it's really going to be something of a balancing act. Now the SS units, they have a role which we would love them to be like Kampfgruppe Piper and just go headlong to the west, but their role is more a mix of Piper and the Volksies, in that they push hard to the west as they can, but at the same stage recognising some of the key junctions, intersections that are going to be defended by the AI, we need to spend some time and reduce them. Interestingly here, you can see that road's getting quite cut up with all the little truck symbols there. But if we do clear that main axis of advance, perhaps that won't be in such bad condition that it may provide us with better supply, although obviously this lower road's going to be badly degraded. You're always making a decision between pushing forward with these SS guys and reducing the American stragglers, or those that you've managed to pin in place. So it's a pull-push type decision. I really wanted this guy to be pushed out so I could try and surround the American units, but just was able to hold on. What I'm going to be very interested in moving forward, and probably from the third turn we may start seeing this, is getting some sort of handle on what the American supply situation is like. At the start of each turn, supply is assessed for all the units on the map. So these guys that we have surrounded, or that should be out of supply, I'm expecting to see some deterioration in their OK figures. If you see the fuel and supplies icon there in the bottom left of the individual units. So I'll be interested to investigate that concept as we move forward. The longer the game goes, the more it ends up being about supply issues, I think. So the SS units here are having something of a role in pinning Ford in place, but as soon as the 394th gets eliminated, then the Volksies will then take over that role, releasing the SS units to go further forward. So I imagine it'll be this leapfrogging type action for the SS as they leap towards Piper and then get pulled back towards the Volksies. But we'll see what happens. Now I'm playing this on hard and slow AI just to see what the AI does. So there is a penalty which just makes the AI stronger by playing on hard, but I'm interested to see if the AI plays cards a little bit more. You know, are there unexpected events it does, and what does it throw in? Maybe some of these events will be transparent to me, but I'm just interested in seeing what the AI programming does. Winning's nice, but having an interesting game is probably better, I think. I mean, if I play this scenario enough, I'll get to know all the AI's tricks and how to play these units more efficiently than what I'm doing at the moment. That's all part of the fun and repeatability of playing these games, of course. The 3rd Fallschirmjäger Division, just to the south of the main group, was making slow but reasonable progress given the circumstances. I think the only thing really worth noticing about these is how I'm taking the high ground to the northeast and southeast of the Americans' positions and eventually forcing them out. Of course, you get attack advantages going from high ground to low ground, so it's always worthwhile keeping an eye on the features on the map and seeing if you can turn them to your advantage. And once again, with this chap, we're trying to put in play a concentric attack for next turn. Massive entrenchment there, 227, then we reduce him to 64. So that's all part of the reduction initially. So at this stage, when you're making some mental calculations about attacking or not attacking, not knowing the rate of how supply affects the American units is something of an issue. Do you attack them and grind them down straight away like I'm doing there, or do you surround them and then reduce them? Of course, surrounding them and reducing their supply takes time because they don't instantly run out of supplies. And if they only defend, it's a third of the cost of like being on the offence. So we're chewing through supplies at a higher rate than they are at this stage. So we have a classic situation further to the south with the 18th Volksgrenadiers. We have these units from the 422nd American Infantry Division that are clearly going to be out of supply very shortly. But in their own right, they're quite powerful, they have quite good entrenchment, and it's going to take all our Volksies to reduce them. So imagine this battle here is going to be going for a number of turns as the front stretches away from them. But that's just the nature of how this battle's going to work. It's going to have these guys basically at their starting position still fighting, and Kampfgruppe pipe is going to be stretched all the way, well, as far as we can get it to the west. Maybe as far as Butgenbach, and maybe even further by the time these guys manage to defeat these American units. But that's just the way it has to go if you want to sort of push west as fast as you possibly can. There's going to be these battles spread over the length of the advance, with the Volksies primarily in the rear and your better units stretching forward towards the west. And this move here, obviously I wanted to take Schoenberg across the river and secure that bridge. Maybe using those Volksgrenadiers from the division there may have been not the best idea. I really should have kept those guys close to the rest of its parent formations and used the tan units moving north. But I just felt the taking that bridge was obviously pretty important. Of biggest interest to the south of the map was the advance towards St Vith. I decided to run my advance to the ridge line where we would consolidate before sort of pushing on towards Saint Vith, but was certainly making extremely good progress in the south. Once again, we're just bypassing a bunch of American units, and we'll just deal with them as we go. Obviously, I dare say the AI will threaten our supply routes and these sorts of things, but these are just issues we're going to have to try and get around. Obviously, I'm interested in blocking these American units which are to the east of the river line, against that river, so they run out of supply and we do our usual routine with them. So going forward from turn 3 into the future, I think the real big issue will be to investigate just how supply operates in the game. I think once we get a feel for that, we'll really have a better understanding of what we can and cannot achieve as the Germans in this game. So I hope in some way this presentation is of interest to you viewers, and perhaps learn something from it, perhaps be entertained in some mild sort of way that these text encounter games keep us interested. A little bit different from the average presentation, I suppose. It's always a bit of a challenge to present these hex encounter style games. They don't have the glamour of the first person shooters or the graphics and these sorts of things. But if you're interested in this type of game, this certainly seems to be a worthwhile one to add to your collection. So I'll let the remainder of the turn play out down here in the south. As I say, the main thing is the thrust of the units towards St Vith or Saint Vith. We'll just keep pushing until we get a bloody nose, I suppose, and then we'll have to consolidate. Rightio, so enjoy. And there's my dog barking at nothing. And I'll see you in turn 3 as we investigate supply and those issues. So I'll see you then. Cheers.